Secret friends, unite!
Hey, secret friends, welcome back to Oops All Thunderdome, episode number 546. This is our very streamlined pick a topic, talk about it, 30 minutes or less, not quite like dominoes. But I'm joined today by comics writer and historian Scott Tipton, who I have not talked to in a very long time. Scott, how are you today?
Doing well, man. It's good to talk to you again.
Yeah, absolutely. No, glad to have you back on the line. And we're going to talk about something that just dropped. I know you had a chance to see this in theaters out there in LA because you're based on the coast. I know it's around theaters now, but I ended up watching it on Netflix last night, and that is the Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein, which just dropped. So we're going to talk about that in a quick second. But I'll tell you what, this is just because it's been so long. And I know that when I interviewed you before, it was with your brother and we were talking about Star Trek. It was on that show. But give me in 30 seconds or less kind of your geek origin story. How did you get to be one of us?
Well, I mean, I've been one of us for my entire life. I mean, it goes back to me being 3 years old and watching Adam West Batman every day on the couch when I was a kid. But as far as being a professional nerd, it all came about where I started working with Chris Ryle on Kevin Smith's website called Movie Poop Shoot back in the day. And then from that, we both moved on to IDW. He was running a place. I was doing some freelance writing. And from that, I got to write for all kinds of stuff, everything from Star Trek to Doctor Who to Astro Boy to Angel and Spike. So, yeah, I mean, it's been a great run. I've been writing Star Trek for about 15 years, off and on. And it's great. And these days you can find me over at 13th Dimension, where I'm doing weekly columns on what's new in comics and what's old in comics. And yeah, I'm just enjoying the geek life out here.
Yeah. I love that 13th Dimension. I tune in on that every week. That's one of my top posts on Facebook. So I see it probably every day or however often it comes out.
Yeah.
Well, cool. We'll jump.
He runs a good site.
Yeah. Well, you'll have to connect us because I would love to talk comics with him. I'm sure I would be overwhelmed by the depth of his knowledge. I know a lot, but I know enough to be dangerous. You know what I mean? But I'm always interested in meeting people who know more. So that's super cool. Real quick plug. I always like to talk about the good folks over on our Secret Friends Unite Patreon. That's patreon.com/Secret Friends Unite. You get all of our shows early. This show, for example, which drops on a Thursday, always comes out on a Tuesday on the Patreon. So you get that a little bit early for your morning drive. Exclusive programs that you don't get anywhere else, and an exclusive Discord channel, amongst other things. And it's so easy to be a part, and it's so affordable. Your first week is free, 7 days, half off your first month, which can be as little as $1, and then as little as $2 a month going forward. So you are losing money by not being part of our Patreon. There's so much great entertainment over there. So patreon.com/Secret Friends Unite. We would love to have you. All right. Enough of that commercial stuff. Let's talk about Frankenstein. Scott, I'm going to read a quick summary. And I'm going to toss it to you. I've got some fun facts to throw in. I've got some notes. You've got some notes, but we'll get this broken down. I say Knights of Roxbury rules here. I think I just made that up. Queen of Roxbury. What's that expression? Like a duel? Like, King of Roxbury rules or something. You know what I'm talking about?
Marquise of Queensberry rules. For boxing.
Marquise of Queensberry rules. There we go. I'm going to start putting this in the notes. We go non-spoilers for a section. We'll break and then we'll finish it up with spoilers. Does that make sense? So somebody listening could get a taste. They could pause it. They could go watch it, and then they could come back and finish it up. Queen, I'm gonna have to add that to the notes. Don't let me forget. But I don't want to be sitting here typing while we're recording because it would just be, and again, we're radio, not TV here. So, but regardless. So anyway, here's a quick summary for anybody who doesn't know what Frankenstein is about, which seems impossible. In this case, is a 2025 American Gothic drama produced, written, and directed by the very famous Guillermo del Toro, based on the even more famous Mary Shelley's 1818 novel Frankenstein, or the modern Prometheus. This film stars Oscar Isaac as the titular Victor Frankenstein, Jacob Elordi as the creature, which people mistakenly call Frankenstein, but it's Frankenstein's monster. But there's a little bit in this film that kind of digs into that. Mia Goth as Elizabeth, with Felix Kamammer. Don't know him. David Bradley, Lars Mikkelsen, aka Grand Admiral Thrawn. I had to look that one up because I'm like, where do I know that dude from? Because the face, it's kind of, even though he's got the big beard, it's very familiar. Kristen Coventry, Charles Dance, very famous, and Christoph Waltz, also very famous, in supporting roles. The story follows the life of Victor Frankenstein. I'm not watching Young Frankenstein. An egotistical scientist whose experiment in creating new life results in, of course, dangerous consequences. So, I am gonna write this down now. So we said it was the Queen of
the Marquis of Queensberry.
Marquis of Queensberry rules. No spoiler, then spoiler. All right, so I'm going to leave it to you. You're a crafter. Talk to me in a non-spoilery way about how you felt about this film. Fire away anything that comes to mind.
Well, I mean, I will admit I was going into this a bit biased because I think Del Toro is probably my favorite director of the last 20 years. I would say it's Del Toro and Tarantino are the ones whose films I look forward to the most. So I was really, I mean, I did have high expectations, especially because I also know that Del Toro is a lifelong Frankenstein fan.
Right.
So I was really came into this hoping it would be what I wanted. And the great thing was, it was exactly what I wanted. If somebody had told me, what do you think a Del Toro Frankenstein movie is like? This is what I would have predicted. Exactly. From the cinematography to the design to the colors to the soundtrack, and just also, most importantly, just to the creative choices, because he wrote the screenplay. Again,
right.
We're in the first half of this, so we won't get into the spoilers too much, but there are decisions he makes in this which deviate from both the original novel by Mary Shelley and from most other versions of Frankenstein. But I love the choices he made, and they make perfect sense if you know Del Toro's body of work.
Absolutely. And you saying that, and I'll keep it in the same vein as far as it deviating, because of course I've read Frankenstein in school eons ago and have seen other versions of it throughout the years, and you get, and it's funny if you kind of transition this back to thinking about fandom, think about the uproar anytime there's a new story featuring Batman or Superman. In a lot of cases, like Robert Pattinson was Batman a few years ago. Oh my God, did they change the Batmobile? And he's a mopey goth, and he's this and that, and Alfred should be this and that, and blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? Or the Joker. I mean, okay, that's one that's even more divisive in fandom, because you had, now I'm going to draw a blank on his name. Who was the most recent, like, absolutely, not to, I'm like the Suicide Squad and all that. Who was that terrible Joker that everybody hated so much?
Jared Leto Joker, yes.
Jared Leto Joker, exactly. And so people were like, "Oh my God, it's not supposed to be like this." And say that again.
The Hot Topic Joker.
The Hot Topic Joker, exactly. But when you boil it down to it, it's a fictional character. In the case of Batman, it's been around for almost a century. For Frankenstein, it's several centuries. It's a fictional character. And it's taken in the hands of a creator, and they're going to do different things with it. And that's the way it should be. Now, I'm not advocating Jared Leto's Joker in any way, shape, or form, but it's a creative choice, and you're right.
Well,
they did some different things.
Yeah.
Go ahead, please.
The most recent example of that, there was that kind of there was a, not huge, but some pushback with James Gunn's Superman with the revelation about Jor-El and Lara, and how they weren't as beneficial as we've usually seen. They weren't so, they had their own motives. But
the benevolency was not,
This especially goes for Frankenstein. This is the beauty when you're dealing with a tale that's been told so many times. you can take new directions with it. And it's not as if this is the one time you tell the story in cinema, and if you get it wrong, you've ruined it. All those things have
Right.
happened in the past. There have been so many versions of Frankenstein that you can pick the one you like most, and it doesn't bother what this, as long as it, like, adheres to what the story should be, to the author's intent. I'm always fine with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, like I said, I can sit through different versions of this. And like you said, Spider-Man's a great example. And it was funnier still in the cinematic version of Spider-Man. They actually brought them all together in the most recent film, which is interesting too. But tell the story the different ways. But it's going to be the same beat. Spider-Man, Uncle Ben dies. Batman, his parents get killed. Superman is an alien from a planet that got blown up. You know what I mean? But if it's told exactly the same every single solitary time, why would you watch it? Why would anybody be interested?
Right.
If not seeing a different take. So, all right. Well, Marquis of Queensberry rules satisfied. I'm kind of aping another podcast that I like. I kind of stick between no spoilers, they give it a rating, and then they launch into spoilers. So, rating out of 10 for you.
I mean, I know I'm biased, but for me, it's a 10. I loved it. I can't wait
Yeah.
to watch it again.
I hear you. Yeah, for me, I think it was a 9 out of 10. For me, I don't love Mia Goth, and it's weird. She's kind of divisive in a way. She's been in some strange films. She's going to be in Star Wars coming up. Maybe that's going to change my rule, but something about her overall carriage just doesn't really do it for me, her performance. So I guess it was the most minor of detractions for me. But yeah, this was a 9 out of 10. I would sit down and watch it again. The time flew by. It was visually beautiful. And I'll talk in spoilers about some things that were not bad about the film, but some things that I feel like I missed out on. So, all right.
Well, just before you go, I will say it's funny with Mia Goth. Initially, I felt the same way you did. As the film gone on, I liked her more and more. Initially, I was like, she's the weak point, and then as the film went on and we got toward the end, I was like completely on board to the point where I didn't know the actress, and like now I got to find something else she's done because now I'm interested. But at the beginning, I was completely turned off.
She did a series of films around a character called Maxine, where she was an adult film actress in the 70s, but it was a slasher horror movie, and they moved it. They made a film. They made a prequel about the setting of the first film, and then the third film jumped her forward where she was you'll have to it's a triple X trilogy, but just not the one with Ice Cube or Vin Diesel.
Right.
It was very, very different films. But yeah, if you look her up, it would be very easy to track those films down. But I don't know. Yeah, like I said, it was just in Mia Goth. Just sounds like a kind of a name. She's a British actress, believe it or not, which I never would have pulled out from seeing her in those other performances. So, all right, Marquis of Queensberry rules 1 and 2 satisfied. Moving on to full barrels, full spoilers. Talk to me about your favorite moments of the film and maybe some that you wish could have gone differently. Fire away.
Well, here's the thing I loved is that I knew that because of the way Del Toro loves the monster, that this version of the monster was never going to be the monster. He was never going to kill innocents. He was never going to kill Elizabeth. He was never going to be the antagonist. The monster here is Victor. And they're very clear about that from the beginning. The monster is Victor all the way through. And the creature is always a sympathetic figure. And the main way that Del Toro changed this in his version, in the book, Victor agrees to create a bride for the creature. And then he's halfway through it and he realizes, wait, if these creatures breed, I'm unleashing monsters onto the world. And so he destroys her midway and he looks up and there's the creature at the window watching him. And at that point, the creature says, I will destroy everything. And he kills Elizabeth and he kills the brother. And I knew Del Toro would never do that because he loves the monster so much. And he didn't in this version. in this version, and the moment that struck me the most is, again, we're deep into spoilers here, but it's the kind of like the dramatic climax of the film is Elizabeth runs in and sees the creature again, and Victor shoots her, trying to kill the creature, and she whispers, "Take me away from here." Even
I
though she
know.
knows she's dying, she's like, "I'm with you. I'm not with him, and I'm not with that guy I'm supposed to marry. Take me away from here." And that absolutely cracked me. I thought that was beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're right, completely unexpected. Because, yeah, I was watching it the same way, expecting, well, and even looking at the time, I'm like, boy, they only have 30 minutes left. How's it gonna do the whole Bride of Frankenstein thing? And like in my brain, you're right, it very much became kind of paint by numbers for me, thinking about, well, this is gonna be like the most famous interpretation of it was from the 90s because I was a teenager, and it was the one with Bobby De Niro where he was the monster, which I always thought
Yeah,
was a crazy choice.
and that one
And that's it.
really, really kind of demented at the end with turning Elizabeth into the bride, and it's seriously, that one's a whole other derivation from the Shelley and from the classic James Whale stuff. That one is very, very kind of off-putting to me, and I was kind of
Right.
afraid. I don't want to go down that path because that so victimizes the monster and it diminishes Elizabeth.
Right, absolutely. Where you're right, I would say without a doubt, this served both characters, the monster, the creature, and Elizabeth, to a point that probably even not even modern audiences, but even people my age, who maybe were not as steeped in the lore, wouldn't have necessarily seen. So I would say my 100% favorite set piece was the Grand Tower of the castle.
Yeah,
I just couldn't believe it. I
right.
couldn't believe how amazing that was to see. And then one of the I know one of the notes that I took down here is that first of all, it's so funny that I mentioned Spider-Man. Let me sneak this in here. One of the notes I found that Andrew Garfield was originally cast as the creature.
I knew that too, and I was thinking about that whole time. I don't know how that would have worked.
Yeah, I mean, and it's good. Jacob Elordi is he's kind of an it boy, handsome guy. He was in that Saltburn film, which I have not seen, but he's very classically handsome. But yeah, it says here that the sidebar says the makeup team spent 9 months working, and they keep calling him the monster. I prefer the creature. Crafting Garfield as the creature, and then when he had to cancel out scheduling conflicts, as happens in the business, and then they had a couple of weeks to slap it all onto Lordy. I think they did an amazing job. I don't feel like it's lacking.
No, not at all. And
Yeah,
it's so unlike every other version of the creature we've seen. And
right,
in very classic Del Toro style, he's a monster who's still kind of beautiful.
right.
You,
Very true.
especially the beginning part where he's just naked and you see all of his seams and scars and his patchwork nature, but it's not abhorrent.
Right,
He's not terrible to look at. And if you look back at, like, for example, the Shape of Water, the Gill Man in
right,
that, he's a monster, but he's lithe, he's lean, he's attractive, and he's attractive through the way
right.
others look at him. And I thought that
Yeah,
I really like that. It's because it's so different, especially when you see it in various points in the movie when he's got the long hair, he's almost kind of glam.
yeah. You're right. It's a
I
Bowie
love
monster.
it. Yeah.
But yeah, that I mean, and yeah, that was why I jumped down to my notes, is that I know that uh the laboratory and the beautiful ship
Oh,
were fully constructed sets. That was something Del Toro insisted upon, which is incredible in this day and age because digital AI. I'm not knocking either one of them, or
no,
the
no,
mocap wall like they use in the Mandalorian. There's definitely places for all of that, but it never will be what real life is with real edifices.
and also
Obviously
I think you just get better performances when actors are on a real stage reacting to real
right,
things. And
right.
if I mean, both the scene with the ship and the scene in the tower, if they were on just a giant green screen, you wouldn't have gotten that kind of urgency and that kind of emotion
Right.
you get when they're doing it.
Right. Yeah. Because they're, oh, I'm looking at this. It's like what Shatner or any of the Star Trek or Star Wars actors say, like, hey, it's a plunger with a bunch of ping pong balls hanging off of it. React to it. Ah.
Right.
Yeah. There's a very famous bit where Shatner says, "Look at this thing, and it's an X on the green screen," and go, ah,
Yeah.
react to it.
It's like Shatner with his Rockman in Trek 5, He only had one rock,
Right.
and people just are pretend there's five. It's not going to work. And with this, it just
Exactly.
performances feel so real. To go back to Garfield for
Yeah.
because I was thinking about that. There were two things. One, I don't know if I could have ever looked at Garfield in that makeup and not seen Peter Parker.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And
It is too catastrophically different to separate a
yeah,
role that ingrained
and I
it with an actor. Yeah.
for me, I was lucky in that I've never seen anything else Lordy has done. So to me, he's a complete unknown. So this is like my
Right.
thing for that actor. But the other thing is, and I think this would have been nowhere near as effective. Lordy is like 6'5",
Oh yeah. Wow.
and Oscar Isaac is like 5'9".
Yeah.
When you see those guys together, and like when he's hunched over on the chained up, and you see the way his legs are sprung, he's so huge compared to Oscar Isaac, and you would have had to have accomplished that through like either forced perspective or effects. And here it's just that this guy's so much bigger than Victor. It
Yeah.
strikes you on camera so much better.
Right. God, good stuff. Yeah. So, even though we're talking about real sets and everything, but one of my favorite, like I said, set pieces was the castle, the external. And
Mhm.
then a lot of this, I know studio work was done in Canada, but a lot of location stuff was done in Scotland, which is where I feel that they probably did this establishment. But I was just really blown away by this. And I feel disadvantage, kind of one of my big regrets, is that I now know that it's playing at my local theater, and I could have gone to see it. Scheduling conflicts, so much stuff going on with my regular job, it didn't really afford me that opportunity. So seeing it on Netflix was kind of the option that I had, because I know I wanted to record on this and get it out because it's hot, and I want people to have our thoughts on it. But I'm really bummed out. I know you saw it a couple of weeks ago at one of the theaters in LA. Talk to me about what it's like to see on the big screen.
Well, I mean, uh, I'm very lucky in living in LA because all the theaters here tend to be great because all the theaters here tend to be used
Yeah.
by all of the. I mean, the Egyptian theater where I saw it is owned by Netflix, and so they bought this historic Hollywood theater just so they would have a place to do this kind of thing and make sure that their films get seen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the power of Del Toro is such that it still works great on your TV, but there's just nothing like having that gigantic screen especially with his vivid colors and the way he uses color. The way Victor's always got his red gloves on and it calls it out.
Right.
The way he uses red for the spirit of his mother that he keeps seeing that kind of like tortures him and leads him to do what he does. I mean,
Right.
it very much reminded me of Crimson Peak, which was his other big gothic ghost story, which used
Right. Yeah.
so specifically, anytime you saw red, you knew something horrible or supernatural was going to happen. And he and with Frankenstein, with Victor, that's always going to happen. So those gloves almost never come off. And
Yeah.
I thought it was great.
Yeah.
The good thing is the movie is so powerful. I don't think people are losing anything by not getting a chance to see it. I wish it was in theaters everywhere. It should be. I think it's one of the best films.
Right.
But if you watch it on Netflix, you're not losing an essential part of the experience.
Right. Right. Yeah. And like I said, I mean, it's wide enough that I live in Grand Rapids, Michigan. It's not a huge market. It's not a tiny market, but there are certainly much bigger ones. But it's here. I don't know
Yeah.
how long it'll be here for. I mean, I'm sure until Wicked comes along and blows it away,
Exactly.
which is just a couple of weeks afterwards. But,
even
you
here
know,
in Los Angeles, it was only in 3 theaters.
oh, okay.
Well, I mean,
Gotcha. So
yeah.
it's interesting that you mentioned. I'm glad you mentioned that the Egyptian theater out there in LA, owned by Netflix, they kind of structure it so that they can have a place for the kind of their tentpoles. It leads me back to kind of a bigger picture thing where I wonder in the streaming world, because if a big release like this, if it was enormous and in the theaters, it could make, tens of millions of dollars. And back in the day, pre-COVID, that was really key. But now that we live in the streaming world where everything is minutes and you want people to subscribe, I've just always grappled with the thought of what is a successful film in this day and age when we have more of a focus, it seems, getting stuff into streaming, you know what I mean? Because this is still so enjoyable, and how many more people are going to see it and re-see it, rack up those minutes, and that's going to help people, that it's going to help your Netflixes and, HBO Maxes of the world rack up more subscribers. I mean, are we really moving away from judging the success of a film by a box office? I mean, would this be a great example of that, do you think?
Well, I think what we're seeing is, I think now we've evolved to like a two track structure. I mean, there always needs to be big films that make the big money, which is why I was so happy to see that Superman did well this year.
Yes, absolutely.
That Fantastic Four did well this year. That Sinners was able to do what they did and have such a huge,
such a great flick,
out of nowhere success rate. But what we're also seeing now, and I mean, because of the way streaming has worked, we wouldn't have had Superman had Suicide Squad, the gun one, not done so well on streaming.
Right.
But that film could,
right.
Warner Brothers, okay, this guy can make a movie that people want to see. Because if for example, the HBO Max also had Wonder Woman 84, and that tanked. No one's going to those people to run their universe. Suicide Squad got the kind of numbers that, okay, you guys know what you're doing, and then that benefits both. Like I just found out today that Gunn and Safran are overseeing a new series of V for Vendetta.
Right. Oh my God, I saw that, and we heard about DC Crime with featuring Jimmy Olsen. Yeah. Was just news that broke today.
Those are amazing things that we would never get in just theaters, and we would never get had not streaming shown Warner Brothers what Gunn can do.
Exactly. All right. Well, we're yeah. Go ahead, please.
The V for Vendetta film, it was good but not great. I would love to see what somebody who I know reveres the page like Gunn does Vendetta.
You bet. God, this turned into a James Gunn Appreciation Society, and I'm totally here for it because I worship at the altar. I really have come to, ever since I was really turned on to him, certainly with Guardians, but other films that came before that, without a doubt. So, so we're starting to wind it down. This has been absolutely incredible. And let this be the first of many times that you and I jump on here and talk about a movie or something. But final thoughts before we start to kind of wind things down, and then I want people to know where they can find you if they want to kind of engage with you. But final thoughts before we wrap things up.
Okay, I've a few quick hits. Oscar Isaac is what I loved about his is every Dr. Frankenstein is different. Colin Clive's was like, tormented and confused. Peter Cushing's outright insane. All just super villain, top to bottom. Gene Wilder, lovable. And then you get like Kenneth Branagh. Yeah, Branagh's is like, conflicted and twisted. And with Oscar Isaac, they had the courage to give us one. He's just bad news. He's a bad guy all the way through, and then because Del Toro
dude, straight up
at the end, they dared to give the worst one redemption, where he and the creature have that moment, and the creature calls him father, and Victor asks for forgiveness. I thought that was fantastic. I thought
it was.
I thought Christoph Waltz was great. That's a new character that's not really been seen before, but it served two purposes. One, it gave us a plot reason for Frankenstein to be able to do what he did, and also you need somebody who's also kind of morally off the realm to give Victor somebody to react to, so that when that moment comes, put my brain in there, and Victor can say no. even I've got a limit. That's not what I want.
Right.
And so I thought that was a very interesting new thing that Del Toro brought to it that makes this unique.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I said, I know we differ about Mia Goth, and I was very much at the beginning not impressed by it. And also, I did notice that it was her who also plays the mother, which gives the whole thing a very Oedipal
Right.
feel to it. Which,
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I didn't make that click right away either, but yeah.
is part of why Victor seems so messed up. But by the end, whenever you see that the fact that she's the only person who's ever really related to the creature besides the old man, and the whole sequence with the old man, I thought was great.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was the same guy. I traced it back. He was from Harry Potter, but he was also the guy that in the first Captain America movie, which I just rewatched recently, who had in Norway, who had the Tesseract that the Red Skull had to kill him for it.
Exactly
Same
so.
dude.
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
and
It was good stuff. Oh, yeah.
Because the old man character was so amazingly parodied by Gene Hackman in Young Frankenstein. It's almost hard to use him without going for the laughs. And I thought, by the way, that's like my favorite scene in Young Frankenstein. But I thought he redeemed the old man character, brought it back and said they really mean something.
Oh my, this is good stuff. Again, Scott, this was awesome. Let this be the first of many. If people want to track you down out there in the social world, where do they find you? How do they talk geek with you virtually?
You can find me every week on Mondays and Wednesdays at 13thdimension.com. I do a weekly piece looking at the new comic releases of the week and a rotating series of what was great in comics this week throughout history. And then I'm often posting stuff on my various socials about comics history and nerd stuff and toys and action figures. You can find me on Instagram through at Scott_tips. And you can find me on Facebook, and you can find me on Blue Sky.
I'm scribbling it all down, but yeah, we'll post all that. But yeah, this was absolutely incredible. So yeah, thank you so much. And friends, thank you again for joining us. If you'd like to hear more, definitely visit our website. You can find me on all the big socials. I'm at the C3, TheCeeThree. I also obviously run our Secret Friends Unite at all of those. And TikTok, I try to do shorts at least several times a week, 3 minutes or less, just let you know something that I'm enjoying. But find Secret Friends Unite over on Discord too. Great community where we're having fun geek chats all the time, like we were just having about Frankenstein. My guest has been Scott Tipton. Scott, you have my respect. Thank you for being here, man.
My absolute pleasure.
All right. And friends, that's it. I'll tell you as always, sharing is caring, and keep on trucking. We'll see you next time.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and podcast services around the galaxy, as well as video on our YouTube channel. You can support Secret Friends Unite by becoming a Patreon member, get bonus programs and more over at patreon.com/secretfriendsunite. Join our Discord community for even more discussions on all things geek. For all the latest updates on Secret Friends Unite, make sure to follow us on Threads at secret.friends.unite and visit secretfriendsunite.com. Find our merchandise at TeePublic and Redbubble. Thanks for listening, and may the Force live long and prosper.